Hello, I'm Bailey Lazier, and today on my channel I'm going to give a recap on what happened in the 2019 MLB playoffs in the divisional round, as well as give my predictions for the league championship series that are starting. So the first series I'm going to talk about was the first series that ended in the divisional round between the Yankees and the Twins. Once again, these teams faced, and like past history, it was all one side. The Yankees just dominated the Twins once again. Sweeping them in 3 games. I mean, it just wasn't even a contest. I mean, the Yankees just, the Twins can hit home runs, but the Yankees, guess what? They can do that as well, and they just did that more. Yankees got decent enough starting pitching, and they just rode great bullpen once again. And, the Yankees, they look like the most dangerous team in the postseason right now. They just dominated the Twins, winning those 2 games against New York and then shutting the door down when they went to that one game in Minnesota. I mean, Aaron Judge, Gleyber Torres, everybody showed up for the Minnesota Twins. I mean, in that Game 3, they had a lot of opportunities, and I think a key moment was in Game 3 when they had bases loaded, no outs, down by a run against Luis Severino, who's still getting his stride, considering he had a long injury this season that kept him out till pretty much since last month. Until last month, and they couldn't score any runs, and that was the pivotal moment. The Yankees were able to win that game and take the series. So I think that's now 16 consecutive playoff losses dating back to, I think, 2002. If I stand corrected, and the last 13 of those games have been to the Yankees. So, a great season for the Twins, but once again, they enter the postseason against the same team, and the same results happen again as the Yankees defeat them by the sweep. And then the other series that happened in the American League between the wild card game winner, the Tampa Bay Rays, and the team with the best record in all of baseball, the Houston Astros. And the first 2 games in Houston were just able to ride their dominant aces in Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole. They just dominated once again, and they put up really good performances, and they shut down the Rays batters. But once the series got to Tampa Bay, Zach Greinke got shaken up in that Game 3. I mean, the hitting just opened up for them against Zach Greinke, and then they decided to start Justin Verlander on short rest, and he didn't really have a great result either, as the Rays were able to win both games against Houston. But then the series came back yesterday in Houston, and the bats woke up for the Astros. Fortunately for them, they got big production from guys like Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, Carlos Correa, the rookie Jordan Alvarez, and Michael Brantley. So that was definitely a big deal, as they were able to win Game 5 from another great performance from Garrett Cole, who, the way this postseason's been going, I mean, he's going to make a lot of money in the offseason from whoever. I mean, he's probably got at least over $200 million contract coming his way. But, as far as the Tampa Bay Rays are concerned, if I'm them, you have absolutely nothing to hang your heads low on this. I mean, that you won a wild card game. You've had all these off-the-field issues, question marks of where you're going to play. But, you were able to win a wild card game, and make this series competitive. So if I'm them, this was a great season for them, and they got a great future ahead of them as well. Moving on to the National League side of the division series, we had 2 really good series in this part of the playoffs. As the first series I'm going to talk about is the St. Louis Cardinals versus the Atlanta Braves. We had really the first 4 games, at least, of this 5-game series were good ones. So the first game, the Atlanta Braves had a lead late when the St. Louis Cardinals came back down from a couple-run lead and took the first game in the 9th inning thanks to a big clutch hit by Marcell Ozuna to go up to win that game 7-6. In Game 2, the Braves were able to rebound with a 3-0 victory. In Game 3, the St. Louis Cardinals, I think, were 1 out away from taking a 2-1 series lead on their home turf when a couple clutch hits from Dansby Swanson and Adam Duvall gave them a 3-1 lead, and they won that game in Game 2. The Atlanta Braves had a 4-3 lead. They were 5 outs away from winning the series when Yadier Molina came up with a big hit to tie the game up, and then in extra innings he came up with a big sacrifice fly to take the series back to Atlanta, where Atlanta had their ace, and it was a massacre in that first inning. I mean, before the Atlanta Braves even came to bat in the bottom of the first, the game was pretty much over with. I mean, the St. Louis Cardinals put up 10 runs in that first inning. I mean, it was just a massacre, and they blew out the Braves 13-1, winning the series and advancing to their first NLCS since 2014. I mean, the big players for the St. Louis Cardinals I think the MVP of the series was definitely Marcell Ozuna, Yadier Molina, Paul Goldschmidt came up with some big hits. Colton Wong, Matt Carpenter as well. I mean, Jack Flaherty, their young pitcher, did a very good job. And for Atlanta, they got great production from Swanson, Adam Duvall, Ozzy Albies, and Ronald Acuna Jr. But the one guy missing for them, definitely their longtime player, Freddie Freeman. He just did not have a great series, and I think that was a big difference. And Atlanta's got a great future ahead of them, but this really was a series that they probably should have won. In the other series, in the National League side of the division series, the Washington Nationals versus the LA Dodgers. The LA Dodgers had 106 wins during the regular season, a record-breaking season for them in their franchise. And the Washington Nationals, who came back down from a 3-1 deficit in the wild card game to beat the Milwaukee Brewers. So this was a very great series. So the first game, it was all Dodgers. Walker Buehler just had a great outing. I think he pitched six almost 7 innings. They just dominated the Nationals 6-0. And then we move on to game 2. Clayton Kershaw, who's had a rough postseason history, and it got even rougher, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. The Nationals were able to get ahead of him early. They took a 3-0 lead. The Nationals were able to hang on. I think the Dodgers in that game had bases loaded with 2 outs in a 2-run game, but Daniel Hudson was able to get the save. The Dodgers fought back in game 3. Anibal Sanchez had a 2-0 lead and was done after 5 innings. He had a 2-1 lead, after the Max Muncy home run in the 5th inning, but Dave Martinez pulled him after 5 innings, and they went with Patrick Corbin. They put him in they brought him out of the bullpen after they brought out Max Scherzer out of the bullpen in game 2 to pitch 1 inning. Corbin came in, and it was just rough. I think the Dodgers put 7 runs up on the board in that 6th inning, and they were able to win that game 10-4. Max Scherzer did pitch in Game 4 and had a great outing. Only gave up 1 run, the Justin Turner leadoff home run in the 1st inning, as the Nationals were able to fight back thanks to a couple big RBIs from Anthony Rendon. Ryan Zimmerman had a 3-run home run in the 5th inning, and the Nationals were able to force a Game 5, and bring up another elimination game in Los Angeles. They've had a rough history as the Nationals. In the elimination games, they had not won a playoff series since 1981, and that brought up Game 5. Game 5, we had Walker Buehler, big ace, after a great performance in Game 1, and Steven Strasburg after a great performance in Game 2. The start of this game, Steven Strasburg got off to a rough start. The Dodgers got the start they wanted. They got 2 home runs, went up 3-0, and then even when you're down like that, I think the big thing is, for Strasburg, keep putting zeros on the board. And, even though Walker Buehler was great, once the 4th inning started, the Nationals started to get runners on base. And they finally cracked through in the 6th inning thanks to the Juan Soto RBI single. They only got 1 run in that inning, but they were getting runners on, and Steven Strasburg was doing his job keeping, base runners and, putting zeros up on the scoreboard. In the 7th inning, this is where it comes in. So, the Nationals had 2 runners on. Walker Buehler was well over 100 pitches. They brought in Clayton Kershaw in relief. He's had a good history in relief, but as I've stated before, in his career, he's not been a great postseason pitcher at all. But he faced Adam Eaton in that 7th inning, and he got the out. He came back in the 8th inning. It was still a 3-1 game. He faced the top 2 hitters that the Nationals had, MVP caliber players in Anthony Rendon and Juan Soto. Best case scenario happened for the Nationals. They tied the game up on Clayton Kershaw in relief. Back-to-back home runs by Rendon and Soto, to tie up the game. This game eventually went to extra innings where Howie Kendrick, the former Dodger, who had had a really bad series, not only at the plate, but playing first or second base. He had bases loaded, no outs. Joe Kelly, who was pitching his 2nd inning in relief, Howie Kendrick came up with probably the biggest hit in Nationals franchise history by hitting the grand slam, and the whole stadium just went silent after that. A lot of people left and just in total disbelief, and the Nationals were able to win, hold on to the bottom of the 10th inning. They won this game 7-3, winning the series, winning their first series in franchise history since 1981 when they were the Montreal Expos, as they advanced to the division series. I'm going to give a lot of credit to the Nationals for fighting back. They didn't care about past postseason history. Juan Soto had a good series. Anthony Rendon was proving that he might be the MVP this year. He could get some votes. Max Scherzer was great. Steven Strasburg was great. And you know what? I'll give some credit to Patrick Corbin after the rough Game 3 appearance. He came in relief and was able to hold the Dodgers, in relief. And that was a big performance for them. Their bullpen, their shaky bullpen, did a good job. Sean Doolittle did a good job, as well as Daniel Hudson. They did their jobs. Moving on to the Dodgers, I think this is a kind of series that Dave Roberts managed that should get him fired. I mean, the way you don't put in I know some pitchers can be great in relief, and you can have that where your starting pitcher comes in relief in the playoffs, but Clayton Kershaw is not that guy. I mean, I know Kenley Jansen has been shaky, and I know Joe Kelly wasn't great, but Kenta Maeda was doing great. Adam Koralik was doing a good job shutting down Juan Soto. Stick with the game plan. Stick with the bullpen. If they did that, if they don't put Clayton Kershaw in that game, they would have won that game and won the series. And that there's no doubt in my mind, and I think a lot of people agree with me that they would have won this series had it not been for Dave Roberts' management in that game. But also stated, pitching staff, Kershaw didn't do a good job. Euler did great, and it's really a shame that the Dodgers couldn't back him up. Max Muncy did a good job. Jock Peterson did a good job, but they're two big lefty hitters. Cody Bellinger, who's could probably be the MVP, and Corey Seager did nothing in this postseason. I mean, they struck out a lot. I think the Dodgers in Game 2, they struck out, I think, well over 15 times. They struck out a lot in this series, and I know that's kind of in baseball, at least this season and probably this era, it's a 3-outcome game, but that was pitiful what they did, how many times they struck out. I mean, winning 106 games and not even winning a playoff series, that's definitely one of the biggest disappointments in recent baseball history. But at the same time, you got to tip your hats to the Washington Nationals for fighting back and exhausting some playoff demons that they had in recent postseason history for them. Now my predictions for the league championship series. Starting off in the American League, we got a rematch of the 2017 American League Championship Series between the Houston Astros and the New York Yankees. Now the Yankees are coming in red hot, and for the most season they've been possibly the best team in the American League. I know not from record wise, but the Bronx Bombers. I mean, Aaron Judge, Gary Sanchez, DJ LeMahieu, that's turned out to be a great signing. Gleyber Torres, Didi Gregorius, Brett Gardner, the veteran. I mean, they've looked very good, and that's only a handful of players I'm talking about. Their bullpen's been really good. Even their pitching staff, has been pretty good in that series. James Paxton wasn't great. Luis Severino and guys like that. Their bullpen is what I think they have the best bullpen in the postseason right now, in my opinion, with guys like Zach Britton, Adam Ottavino, and Tommy Kahnle, and Aroldis Chapman. That's definitely going to be a big difference for them. Moving on, the team they're facing that beat them in 7 games, the Houston Astros. They got home field advantage, in this series, and if they get to the World Series, led by, their pitching staff, and Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole and Zach Greinke to a lesser extent. Their hitters, Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, Carlos Correa, George Springer, the rookie Jordan Alvarez, Michael Brantley, Yuli Gurriel. I mean, both teams I feel like are very evenly matched up, other than Pitt, that's the difference between the Yankees and the Astros. I think the Astros have the better pitching staff, but I think the Yankees have a better bullpen, and but the lineups I think match up pretty well. Even though I think the Yankees probably hit a little bit more home runs. I think the key players in this series, I think for the Yankees definitely will be probably Severino and James Paxton and those guys. I think the big thing, if you can get 5-6 innings out of your pitching staff against that lineup, you're going to be doing very well. I think for the Astros, especially after going the distance with the Tampa Bay Rays, I think their bullpen's got to has to be better, and I think, Zach Greinke's going to have to step it up. And so I think it likely Zach Greinke will be pitching game 1. So if I'm AJ Hinch, with Greinke's personality and his past history and as a baseball pitcher, I don't pitch him in New York. I keep him in Houston. I think the big thing for them is their bullpen's got to get better. Will Harris has been great. Robert Ozuna has been kind of shaky. So I think this is going to be a very tight series. I mean, I was going to pick the Yankees, but the way the Astros play at home, it's very tight. And I think the series will go 7 games. But, I think if you're the Yankees, if you want to win this series, if you can take 1 game and you can win all 3 games in New York, I think if the Yankees win this series, it will likely be in 5-6 games. While the Astros, I think, it's probably 6 or 7. But I'm going to say I will take the Astros to win this series in 7 games. And moving on to the National League Series between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Washington Nationals. The Washington Nationals are finally past the second round in the playoffs. Meanwhile, the St. Louis Cardinals and their history, they're back in the deep in the playoffs, trying to get to their first World Series since 2013. Hitting-wise, I think both teams match up pretty well. I mean, for the St. Louis Cardinals, like I've said, you have Matt Carpenter. You have Marcell Ozuna, who's the MVP in that series for the St. Louis Cardinals. You have, Paul Goldschmidt, and several, Yadier Molina still. You have several great hitters. For the Nationals, you have Anthony Rendon and Juan Soto, the two-headed monster. I mean, 2 of the best players in baseball. You have Trey Turner, Ryan Zimmerman when you use them, Howie Kendrick. I think we'll have a lot of momentum coming in after that big hit against the Dodgers in that Game 5. So I think both teams, from like the Yankees and Astros, I think from a lineup perspective, I think they match up pretty well. As far as pitching staff, I definitely give that to the Nationals in having Schwarzer, Strasburg, and Corbin. Even though Adam Wainwright and Jack Flaherty are very good, I think bullpen, I think it's pretty even as well, but I might give it to the Nationals because their bullpen pitched very well, and definitely I think Davey Martinez, he could use Max Scherzer or any of those starting pitchers in the bullpen again. So, it's very tight, and I know St. Louis has got more recent postseason success than the Nationals. But I feel like the Nationals, they finally getting past the second round, they have a huge chip off their shoulder, that was weighing them down. So I like momentum, and you know what? I'm going to go with the Nationals. I think they win this series in 6 games. What are your thoughts so far on the 2019 MLB postseason, and who do you think will win in the League Championship Series? So leave in the comment section below. Follow me on Twitter at Leisure96. Click like if you like the video, and subscribe if you like the content on my channel. So thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you all later.